6 months ago, I bought this 190E with the goal of building my very own Evo 2 for under $20,000. Now, we have to get this car ready to go to Seattle in just under a month. And as you guys saw in the last video, we have a lot of work still to do and very little budget left. But before I head out to Seattle, there's a big car show in Calgary called Driven, and I really want my car to make it. Which means I have 24 hours to get this car ready to go. Now, the next thing we wanted to do before we take the car to Driven is put coilovers on, because without the coilovers, the ride height on this car looks awful, like the worst I've ever seen on a car. Unless I had the coilovers on, I wasn't even going to show the car. So with 24 hours to go, my friends Ethan and Kirk came over to help spend the night installing the new MTS Technic coilovers and taking out the old broken springs.
Professionals. I have a hammer out. We're gonna have a blowtorch, possibly an angle grinder.
Definitely an angle grinder. All right, yeah, let's have a quick update, TJ, and then Ethan can have my mic.
And we'll get back to Ethan cutting my suspension. Jason has been working a ton on the bodywork.
Looks like crap again, as you can see. That's because I had to fill all these pinholes. If you zoom in, see all the bright dots?
Yeah.
All of those are pinholes in the gel coat.
And you've already got them all finished.
Yeah, I've got them all filled, so now I need to sand the whole thing down again, block it again, and then hopefully spray another coat of primer on tonight, and those pinholes should be gone.
And you did the front bumper too.
Yeah, the front bumper's not as bad, but also it's way smaller than the rear bumper, so it goes a lot quicker.
Yeah. Now back to Ethan to see where we're at with the springs.
We're gonna try and get these springs out with losing our face.
Without losing our face, you said.
I think that would be ideal.
Why would we lose our face?
If this spring comes out compressed like that and hits you in the face,
you're going to the hospital.
a little more than that. You might not have your face anymore. And then we got to get these bolts out. They're looking a little crusty. Get these shocks out, and then we're gonna be able to get these springs out. So we're gonna have to figure out how to keep those compressed while we do that. And then we'll move on to the front eventually.
And we've got our new setup here from MTS Technic. They did not sponsor me. What are you doing right now?
Trying to get the socket over all the rust. So we're gonna try and crack this loose. This probably won't work, but it's a good start. And then we'll move on if we need to. So it's definitely a little bit seized. I'm just gonna try and work it off.
There we go.
This is the easy part, but we need to make sure that bolt isn't stuck inside of the bushing. We can get this nut off first. That's probably ideal step number one, then we'll go on from there. Okay, so if you look over here, you can see that this bolt is turning. So that is a good sign. That means it's not seized in the bushing, which is like the worst. So
Great.
we might actually be able to pop this out. So we'll just get a wrench on this
It's
side.
a Mercedes.
Sure.
Finally, you got it off. Good job. It is very warm.
It is very warm from the friction due from the rust. I'm gonna try and clean it up now.
Because we're going to have to reuse it.
Yeah, fortunately.
A few moments later.
So we're compressing this spring so we can remove that, and then we'll be able to take out this shock, and then we can put in the new stuff.
And what are you doing?
What needs to be done?
Is this sketchy?
Of course it is. This is what happens when you work on ship boxes.
Hey, what's happening here? Why is this on the floor?
So that's an extremely rusty shock that is at the end of its life. And the reason you know that is I shouldn't be able to push on this with my bare hands.
Oh.
So it's a good thing we're replacing that.
It's not completely dead, at least it rebounds.
It's got a little bit in there. But yeah, it's seen better days. This is our extremely sketchy shock and
that
spring
looks like it's
removal.
about to pop out.
Yeah, it is. We're hoping.
I'm nervous even just standing here. Like at any moment, I could just...
Oh yeah, you should be.
It's not very, doesn't have too much tension on it.
No, that's fine.
But it's, we got most of the tension gone through these spring compressors, these handy dandy.
Yeah, but this still looks like no matter what way you bring it out, it's going to go like poof, and just shoot
Yeah,
down.
that's probably what's going to happen.
A few moments later.
So that was
Onion
part
ring.
of your spring. It's actually gone now.
Completely.
But hey, we got a nice rubber
That looks like
spring hat.
reusable. While Kirk was untensioning the springs, Ethan continued working on the front suspension to get the new springs and shocks installed. In the meantime, Jason was preparing the bumper. smooth it out.
Yeah, there's a weird little wave somewhere. I think it was over here in the
Yeah.
splitter before, but got that sorted out this time too. After driven, I'll give it one more wet sand, another block with like 400 grit, a fine grit, maybe 600, and that'll prepare the surface to make it perfect for wrap, because off the gun there's going to be a little bit of orange peel,
Yeah.
and that orange peel will be visible with the wrap. It'll just make it look cheap.
Yeah, I don't want that.
Exactly.
Jason started priming the side skirts while Ethan finished up the suspension. Now we had one more day to get the car ready for driven, and it still wasn't drivable. I'm finally here to get my wheels. Shout out to Powder Works here in Calgary, Alberta. If you need wheels done, come to them. Oh my goodness. They are finished in the white, gloss white with silver heart logo, and then here you got the Powder Works sticker. So glad I did the white instead of the silver. So bright. I can see what you mean by that's blinding in the sun. We are back. It is the next day, about 12 hours later. And what are you guys already doing?
So we just got all the old dust boots and bump stops onto the new shocks.
Yeah.
Do you think we should just trailer this to driven?
I think
It definitely, I think it'd be more ideal. Just because like the car won't be aligned. That brake line is super sketchy.
just some cheap replacement parts
It
just
is
to finish
destroyed
it off.
too. We're supposed to like there's holes here.
And there's dust getting all in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that not a problem?
It's got a
It is.
dust seal on the shock, but it's nice to have this extra protection.
Exactly. For
So-
driven, it'll be fine, but we definitely would need to do this before you road trip it. I've got all this sanded and cleaned and prepped. I'm gonna brush on some of that POR15.
And we got 2 more wheels. We're still waiting on the 4th one that's getting fixed because it had a crack in the back of it. So that's been repaired. Now they've stripped it down to metal. He's gonna powder coat it again tomorrow. And then we gotta put them all on the car. I don't even know if there's physically enough hours left. We were planning on driving the car, but it currently still has no coolant tank mounted up. Nothing here. No headlights.
Trailering it is definitely better, but I don't think it's necessary.
They've already test fitted the wheels here. It's gonna be a little bit lower when the car's done. But all the suspension looks like you guys have installed it already.
Kinda. The rear struts we're struggling.
What's the problem with the rear struts?
It seems like the shaft is like too short, so we can't really like. That looks like it's on, but it's not great.
And while I let Jason finish that up, it was time to catch up with Ethan.
So it looks like everything's bolted in, ready to go. Might do some final adjustment on the ride height, but as far as everything being bolted in and ready to go, she's good to go. As far as the rear, we had to modify up some crush washers underneath of the nuts. So we used Infamous's splitter material to make some washers just to have something a bit softer. The factory rubber was a bit too long, so we're all bolted in. Springs are good. We'll see what the ride height sits like, and then we'll go from there. We want it to be practical, but also look good, so we'll try and find a height that is between that. So we got lots to do still, but it is getting there.
And Jason,
Hello.
what's the update for what you're doing?
The gap is closed. I bonded those washers I showed you. I bonded to the back. Managed to locate the holes and put a riv nut in the car.
And I see you've got green stuff everywhere.
Yeah, we got some fiberglass filler on all the exposed metal. It's just more waterproof than regular Bondo, regular filler. Block this down, fill it again, block it again, prime it, and it should be ready for wrap. Next step though, now that I know that the flares fit good, I'm gonna take it back off and I need to tape this area because I need to start filling these gaps. It's not gonna be that bad, but yeah, they're not tightened, but there's gonna be gaps and I just need to make them perfect.
So that's the update on the build. And now I guess Ethan and I, are gonna put the wheels on, the other 2 that we have, and see more how the car sits in the back with the rear ride height. This car is supposed to drive like 20,000 kilometers this year, hopefully. Do you think it's gonna make it?
We'll get there.
We'll get there. We're not there yet.
We got a lot to do before we get on that road trip.
And Jason, you're probably gonna be coming with me, right?
Yeah, I think I will be.
So you're gonna test your own creation.
I guess. I mean, what I did to it, I'm not scared about. It's the mechanicals.
Aren't you gonna help do the mechanics?
I guess.
Or Ethan?
We'll see what we can do. That diff is probably the #1 thing. It's leaking from pretty much every seal possible.
Let's get these wheels and tires mounted and see what the ride height looks like. That actually looks pretty dope.
So it doesn't have a wheel on it, so.
Oh no, what happened here? I don't know. The wheel's not done. This shot, you literally look like... All right, it is a few hours later. Everyone else is leaving or has left the shop. Jason and I are left. What are you doing right now?
I filled all the gaps from the poorly fitting rear flare with some fiberglass filler. Now I'm just gonna countersink all these holes I made earlier, just so there's something more for the filler to bond onto.
There are a few things I want to clarify from this video series. In the last video, some of the comments were saying like, you're not working on the car, you're not touching it. No, of course I'm not. You know, what I love about cars is the people and the connecting with people through them. So I bought this car and I'm building this car. Well, not me, but Jason's building it to drive and road trip it. Like, that is why I'm building it, not for the build series. This is just a small portion of the content. And if I was building this car, well, I wouldn't even build it, honestly. I don't have the skills to do this. And you go, oh, why don't you learn? Jason, how long would you think it would take me to build this car? For the people saying, why don't you build it yourself? A couple years?
Probably, yeah, because I've been doing this since I was like 14.
When you have skills and someone else has skills, I think it's best to use your skills to make money, to pay someone else who has the skills to build this car, and it works for everyone. That's the reasoning behind why I'm not building the car and why Jason's building it. And maybe in the future, my likes will change. To me, the road trip is when this car is really gonna start. Like, that's when it's all gonna kick off. The adventures that I'm gonna take this car on, the people that I'm gonna meet, you guys, hopefully I'm gonna meet as many of you as possible. And you know, you can sit in the car, we can have barbecues and, you know, just events. That's why I love cars. Let's get back to seeing what Jason is working on currently. This looks good.
Yeah, it's blocking out the rear flares. They're really wavy, but they're small, so it goes by pretty quick. Next, I'm gonna pop it off and refine this edge that I filled, all the gaps. There's a little rust patch by the taillight, also all blocked and ready for primer. Also the little bubble of rust by the sail panel and just above the gas filler.
Man, these wheels look so cool. Don't like the look without center caps, but they already look cool on the car. There we go. After a lot more sanding.
Perfect gap to the body.
Looking good. Looks OEM. To me, the goal is to make this car so perfect that, I mean, obviously you'll kind of tell it's a replica based on the wrap color, but if you didn't know, if I painted it black, it would look real from the outside. Not when you look at the interior. I'm definitely not going to have an OEM plus interior. It's got different gauges on the Evo. I'm going to have a different steering wheel and very, very different seats in the front. The Subi seats, if you didn't watch the last video. Let's check what time it is.
Midnight, I'm guessing?
Yep, 12 a.m.
Dang.
You were bang on.
Yeah, it goes quick, but also takes a long time. It's weird. It's a weird double-edged sword.
I don't like life.
Yeah, true.
Like life. What everybody's saying, you're not building your car and you're not doing any work, it's Jason's build. Well, watch this. I'm actually gonna be peeling the tape off, as you can see. Okay, Jason, I don't know how many hours or minutes this is later, but what is the update?
Finally,
pieces here.
Everything is ready to prime. Yeah, fought a few more pinholes that just like the bumpers, it was like I thought I was done, and then like an hour later you're actually done because you sand something and then more pinholes come out.
Jason then continued to spray primer on the rest of the body panels. If you're in Canada and you guys need work, please support Infamous Aero. They've helped me out so much. Without Jason, this build wouldn't even be happening. So if you want a custom wide body, if you want a wide body for a Mustang, BRZ, FRS, R32, go to Infamous Aero. So it is the next morning and I am back. I brought the spare wheel, or the one we were missing before. I see you've already got some of the car assembled.
Yeah, I threw the rear flares on quickly just to make sure the gaps are still good. Everything fits perfectly. Yeah, everything is flush, everything is even left to right.
That looks really good.
I primed a few of the areas while you were gone, just like our antenna delete.
I can't even tell it's painted or primed.
There's the rust patch here, and a dent or a chip or something there.
This car's starting to look like a bring a trailer piece.
Yeah, totally.
And you got this part mounted on. Big difference from yesterday.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So that's all built up, right? Because
Yep.
none of that was there.
Yep.
Impressive. And side skirts are mounted. So what's the next step?
Assembly, I guess.
Now it was finally time to put my wheels on, the Racing Heart wheels, which Scotty, my friend, found for me for $700. Absolute steal, considering these are real period correct Japanese race style wheels. We have now finished reassembling the car. We couldn't get the trailer, so that means we have to drive it to Driven tomorrow, which is why we hooked up the coolant. We're now gonna start it, see if it even starts, and if it starts, hopefully it won't overheat and we can bleed the coolant and drive it to the show tomorrow, which is like, what, 15 minutes away?
Ish, yeah, something like that.
Okay, moment of truth. Okay, we have power, that's good. Of course it would start. The classic Mercedes, they never break. But as we're going to pull the car out, whoa! Sounds like something is completely broken. What happened?